Devil May Cry.
Dante, I'm trying to fight these demons, but I'm dummy thick and the clap of my ass keeps alerting them. I understand you and Nero have the same problem.
So this review is a little fashionably late. But if you gotta be late, you might as well do it with
Smoking sexy style!
And since we're late, spoilers, I guess. Anyway, the 5th in the mainline Devil May Cry series, and 6th in the overall franchise, if you count the DMC reboot, not a lot of people do, continues the trend of stylish character action with the
Smoking sexy style!
the series is known for. Nero returns from Devil May Cry 4 with a fantastic intro and opening credits scene. Even if he is only half the man he used to be, having lost his cool demon arm that let him deliver those cool fatality-style moves on enemies, and instead replacing them with a large assortment of robot arms supplied by new character Nico. These arms let him do various things, from an electric palm strike, surfing on a rocket punch, becoming the drill that pierces the heavens, replicating his old Buster arm, and more. They give Nero a lot more options in terms of gameplay than what he had in the last game, and given that DMC5 lets you customize these Devil Breakers to your own liking, you can easily set up your own personal favorite assortment or test out new ones on the fly. For a price, of course.
Cash first.
All the materials I collected for your little pet projects don't count for anything.
My brilliant badass work is worth every dime, you know it.
Not only do the arms cost you a reasonable, and I do mean a reasonable, amount of red orbs, the game's version of money, but you get rewarded by your overall lack of clumsiness with them. While they give Nero lots of cool abilities, if you get reckless and get hit while using an arm's power, you'll find yourself quickly disarmed. Now that's not to say you'll be left out in the cold, as Nico generously and miraculously has scattered various arms for you to collect throughout each level, so don't be too worried about relying on your swordplay alone. Nero is still the angriest character you'll play as in the game, similar to how the dynamic between Nero and Dante was in DMC4, with Dante being cool and carefree while Nero was justifiably angry and screaming and just bashing his sword over and over and over again to vent his frustrations. He still does that here. His skills, his rage, and yes, even the power of love will carry Nero throughout the game. And then he powers up in the last level and uh-oh, now his devil trigger's been pulled. Next up is the second playable character and newest one overall to the franchise, V. So V has a bit of a different style than Dante or Nero. V himself is actually pretty weak, and essentially brings the gameplay of a summoner mage to the DMC formula. V's weapons, uniquely enough, are all throwbacks to enemies from the very first DMC, bringing them back for one last hurrah as Griffin, Shadow, and Nightmare brutally pummel enemies while V waits in the wings to finish them off with his Silver Cane. I think V is without a doubt the easiest of the three characters to play, since your summons will often attract enemies away from you, and you don't have to be in the thick of it as much. But his unique playstyle still didn't stop me from having fun with him. V is a frail, fragile thing, so let his summons do all the heavy lifting so he can be edgy and read poetry and stuff. Finally, we have series mainstay Dante. If V was the easiest character, and Nero the most straightforward brute force character, Dante would be the most complicated character, because he has so much stuff. He's got 4 different melee weapons, well, technically 6, but 4 different melee weapons, okay? 4 different ranged weapons, 4 different combat styles that you can each level up to level 4 for maximum stylishness and overall variety of moves, each of which alters how you can play with him and all his cool toys. And he's got 2 different demonic transformations that give him either, healing or just overall just raw power damage. So for a new player, this might seem overwhelming at first, but for series veterans, a lot of this is mostly par for the course, just with a little icing on the cake. With some practice, it won't take long before you too are stylishly slaying demons with the legendary Devil Hunter. Money is very easy to earn in the game, doubly so once you unlock Dante's Faust hat, which also gives you one of the best cutscenes in the game. Just go watch it, it's amazing. And once you're rolling in those sweet, sweet red orbs, perhaps the only form of money Dante has any kind of true material wealth in, the sky is the limit for what you can do, and it'll be wacky woohoo pizza times all over again. There's even a limited form of co-op in DMC5. Often you'll see another player off in the distance in a different mission, but occasionally you'll actually play together in the same room. Mission 13 is notable in particular for a triple co-op experience. The only thing missing, I would say, from this co-op is more of it, especially the chance to fight some giant mega boss using all 3 characters at once. It just doesn't happen. I don't know why. It would have been cool, but it doesn't happen. But what is a hero without a villain to match him? DMC5's answer to this is the mysterious Urizen, a guy who spends about half the game doing nothing except sitting in a big chair casually just wrecking every single challenger. But wait, what's the... Oh, he's Virgil! So, let's be real. The game doesn't go too much out of its way to hide the fact that this is Virgil. I mean, Virgil himself is seen literally in one of the very first cutscenes of the game. So yeah, Dante's evil twin is back. But he's as cool as ever, and once again, he's erected a giant thing that is causing mass hysteria and chaos. Virgil does Virgil things, so expect more of the same as you saw in DMC3, but with a couple new twists, but overall he still has that same calculated, precise Virgil style. The side characters are okay. Nico is your resident merchant from whom you buy items and skills, and has some great moments interacting with the main characters. Lady and Trish even return, even if ultimately they don't really do all that much. I've seen some people criticize this particular lack of activity, and while I understand where they are coming from, realistically, they wouldn't be much use against someone of Virgil's caliber anyway. Even Dante has an unusually tough time with things in this particular go-around, so it's only to be expected that everyone has a hard time if Dante is having a hard time. It doesn't mean they're not badasses, it just shows how bad the situation really is. In terms of level design, DMC3, this is not. Most levels are entirely straightforward, with a few paths here or there, with a few extra goodies, but aside from a handful of levels with fairly simple puzzles, find a thing, open a thing, rinse and repeat, you're going to get a pretty straightforward experience. Some people hated this. Personally, I didn't mind. I never particularly cared for DMC's puzzles. DMC is not a puzzle game. And while I can appreciate the value of some downtime between fights, too much downtime because of a very lengthy puzzle always dampened my mood. That said, I'd much rather have tight gameplay over puzzles, and DMC5 delivers this. Combine this with a
Smoking sexy style!
soundtrack that pierces the heavens with its awesomeness, and you have a recipe for greatness. Nero, I think, has the best song by leaps and bounds, but the themes for Dante and V aren't bad. They're serviceable. You even have the option to switch to themes from across every single one of the older games as well, and having options is always a cool thing in my book. So finally, this leaves us with the story. It's decent. The story felt kind of... it was strange because it felt strangely long, but short at the same time. This is likely because of splitting it up between 3 different characters over the course of 20 missions. I don't think it's the best story in the franchise, since DMC3 still reigns supreme in that particular department, but I did enjoy my time with it. Overall, the story isn't bad. It is, however, deliberately disjointed, as some missions take place a few weeks before everything else, so not every mission is in chronological order. The disjointment will not affect the ability to understand the story, thankfully. The story is also full of lots and lots of callbacks to all the previous games in the series. I already mentioned V's summons as being DMC1 enemies, but when you fight them, you even get the old battle themes to go with them too. Nilo Angelo enemies spring up from time to time to round out the DMC1 tributes, although everyone forgets Phantom the Spider. I don't know why, but ignore Phantom. And the king of everyone's favorite 3-headed doggo turned nunchucks makes an appearance as well to give an old DMC3 weapon new life. I miss you, Agni and Rudra. But King Cerberus is pretty cool. Nero himself is of course directly from DMC4, with Nico being the daughter of Agnes, whom you may or may not remember as the guy who had an operatic duel with Dante in one of the greatest DMC cutscenes ever. Even the hated and maligned DMC reboot game has shoutouts here, as pretty much the entire Dante-Virgil battle takes place in a pretty similar landscape, with Dante even shouting out one of the more infamous lines of the reboot to Virgil as a taunt. Not only that, but the soundtrack will also scale with your style ranking, so the more stylish you are, the greater your soundtrack becomes. Even the DMC anime gets a nod by bringing in Dante's handler Morrison, albeit they did change his race, and having annoying character Patty even give him a phone call, which prompts Dante to practically run screaming to do Morrison's job to avoid going to a simple thing like her birthday party. It's so Dante that he would do this. It's so Dante. Even the old lore gets addressed a little bit. We're talking like the old DMC novel here, but with mentioning Tony Redgrave, Dante's old alias, and how Neil Goldstein crafted Ebony and Ivory, which is Dante's signature pistols. Like, this is all a giant love letter to Devil May Cry. In fact, aside from a super brief mention in the history of DMC video, I think the only thing not to get a love letter was DMC 2, which, in my opinion, is easily the worst of the DMC games. That includes the reboot, yes, mainly because DMC2 is pretty much an incomplete game. It was entirely rushed into production. I know some people are mad and they're like, no, reboot was awful. And while the themes or the story may have been the problem with the reboot, DMC2 was just barely there, guys, and it shows. And that's a real shame because Dante's DMC2 design is freaking sweet. And the ending to this game, though, just mwah! It was just perfection. With Virgil and Dante in hell. Yes! It was so good. At any rate, I don't think I can gush over this game any more than I already have. I had so much fun playing through this game, and replaying through this game, and replaying it until I actually got an S rank on all the missions. So granted, it was only on normal difficulty, but this was the first DMC game where I actually cared about doing something like that. I've never done that. I've never gone back and tried to S rank every mission in a regular DMC game. Learning how to play the different characters, utilizing all their tools, it was just so much fun. If you've never played a character action game, I would absolutely recommend giving this game and the entire DMC series a try. This game is
Smoking sexy style!
Once again, thanks to everyone who watched. It really means a lot. If you like what you see here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to hit that bell notification icon so you can get notified every time there's a new video here on the channel. I try to do at the very least 1 per day, though I do aim for 2 per day. And, once again, thanks a lot, guys. Every time someone watches one of my videos, I view it as an accomplishment. And I hope the rest of you go about your day with, fantastic, sexy stylishness. Until then, my name is Axelon. Be sure to check us out on Twitter as well. We have a Twitter presence. And, of course, visit our main website at www.enthusiacs.com. I'll see you guys next time.